Welcome to Activate Your Introvert, the weekly radio show to uncover and unlock the entrepreneurial skills in your business. In this week's show, Introvert Myth of the Week. Introverts are more intellectual or creative than extroverts. Sorry, introverts, had to give up on that one. Tip of the week. Ideas to manage working from home, especially as some of your team are introverts. And a discussion with Rachel Atkinson. Rachel is an experienced HR professional. After many years in larger firms, she now operates her own HR consultancy that specialises in supporting charities and purpose-led organisations. Just before speaking to Rachel, in a presentation I was giving last week, a number of delegates discussed how they believe that working from home and hybrid working even more so will become increasingly commonplace, despite good news about the COVID vaccinations. So in a moment, some tips about managing staff that are working from home. But while I'm thinking about presentations, I would love to talk to you about performance through people. It's a 5-day summit on improving leadership, and there's going to be quite a bit of focus on introverts and other people differences. It'd be a great time for you to increase your knowledge and awareness. There are 13 superb speakers across the 5-day summit, and if you book now, the details are on the sleeve notes, you'll be able to go for free. So commercial over, let's go back to those tips. Number 1, beware recency bias. Just because some people are telling you what they're up to doesn't mean they're doing any more work. This is especially true when you think of some introvert and extrovert differences. One group is much more likely to be telling you what they're up to. One group tend to keep quiet and keep going. Number 2, agreed deadlines are more important than ever before. Discuss, set and agree how you'll both check in. Introverts prefer clear, structured tasks to something less defined. Help the introvert to create those clear, structured tasks. Extroverts may prefer something less structured, but you need to jointly impose some structure if you're to have confidence that they're being productive. Number 3, don't just ask, is everything okay? Dig deeper. Ask what to see, what's been ticked off the list. Ask to see some work in progress. Share screens. Have a look. Introverts tend not to like sharing incomplete work, so I would agree these progress checks up front. Extroverts, of course, may relish collaboratively working on half-completed work. Again, act accordingly. Number 4, agree how and when you'll discuss progress. You know, I've discovered that some leaders don't like interrupting staff and others do it all the time. Neither is good. Calling agreed times is not interrupting, so get your diary full of the times when you're going to discuss things with your team. Nobody likes being checked up on, but if you agree the deadlines and the progress reporting beforehand, introverts will appreciate your thoroughness and your consideration. Extroverts may work in a more structured way, so you can have more confidence about productivity. Have more but shorter meetings. Whether one-to-one or team meetings, shorter and focused via Zoom or whatever you use is better than long and rambling. No, it really doesn't matter which system. It is being able to see them, talk and screen share that are important. And then, even more so, it's important how you manage the humans in the meeting. And we'll do some more tips on that one next week. Finally, keep it up. If you're one of those leaders who comes out with great ideas periodically and then don't follow them through, I'm going to just push you to create this as a new habit. What will help you to turn it into a habit? The worst thing going is to tell your staff, especially the introverts, that you're going to keep these checkups and these managing procedures going and then stop. You'll lose respect and they won't believe you next time you come up with a new idea. If you want to discuss ways of improving productivity from your team, or you'd like me to present on how hybrid working changes leadership, I'd love to chat more. Do let me know what tip you'd like to help you activate the entrepreneurial skills in your business, or what introvert myth you'd like exposed. Drop me an email, give me a call, or add it as a comment to your review on the iTunes store. Yes, go on, put one on there. I'd love to hear from you. But now it's time to chat to Rachel. Welcome, Rachel.
Hi, John. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's really good to catch up again. Just before we dive into talking about HR and introversion, can I ask what seems like a simple question? Are you an introvert or an extrovert? And possibly more importantly, what does it mean to you?
So I think from all the personality profiling I've done over my years, I'm definitely an extrovert. But saying that, I think what I've realized recently is that I probably get my energy back from being by myself, which I didn't realize that probably even until the last year. But generally, yes, if people that meet me at work and that know me as an extrovert, I'm quite social. I like to bring people along. I like to have big ideas and I like to speak quickly, and I don't always worry about the details. So yeah, lots of extrovert tendencies here.
Brilliant. Obviously, you've got a lot of work as an HR manager and HR professional experience.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in an organisation, what's your number one concern?
So for me, it's really important that everybody feels a part of the organisation that they work for, particularly in charities where people are often really wedded to the cause. And so often, inclusion and diversity, we look at areas like, we sort of think about protected characteristics, gender and sexuality. But actually, for me, diversity is about diversity of thought and diversity of the people that make up teams and make up organisations. So I think I've seen a lot over the years where you have people that would be classed as introverts that might have those labels that we expect of introverts, like shy and quiet, but actually often the quietest ones are the ones with the most to say. I think I've learned as well from leading teams that include extroverts and introverts that there's really sort of different ways to include everyone, but it's really important that everybody gets a voice, particularly for me as an extrovert who thinks really quickly and has lots of ideas. I know that I'm strongest when I'm paired up with somebody who thinks differently to me and who can challenge me on my way of thinking. And that's sort of the power of collaboration and the power of diversity.
I love that. And a couple of really important phrases came out there. Diversity of thoughts. And I think a lot about that one. But also, I love that phrase you said, which was the quietest often have the most to say.
Yeah.
Can we just touch on that diversity thing again? What is it that reduces that diversity of thought?
For me, it's when you only get to hear from certain people. And I can think of lots of occasions, and I'm sure people listening can think of lots of occasions where you go to a meeting and it tends to be the same people that speak all the time. And so then you're not engendering creativity and innovation if you're only hearing from the same people. If you employ lots of people, if you have lots of people on a team, until you give everyone an opportunity to speak and really listen to what they're saying, then you're missing out potentially on lots of opportunities.
Absolutely. And you mentioned earlier when you're working with charities that everyone's focused on perhaps the purpose. Does that imply that sometimes they miss out on some of that diversity of thought?
I think so, yes. I think it's probably the same for lots of organisations. Again, in charities, you can get, I'm not saying that more people that work in introverts are charities, not at all, but I can think about lots of experiences that I've had where there are people that aren't necessarily quite out there and extroverted, and yet when you sort of draw them to one side and have a conversation, some of their ideas are absolutely incredible. So I think it's really important for business leaders to give a voice and a platform to everybody, and it's about creating opportunities. So for myself, when I've led diverse teams in the past, I will always make sure that if we're going to talk about a certain subject, that I'll give advance notice, so that those people that might not speak up have got an opportunity to think, because I appreciate a lot of people are reflectors. And then during the meeting, I'll purposefully make sure that everybody gets an opportunity to speak, and even say something like, if there's 10 people in this meeting, that means everyone gets 10% of the time each. It doesn't mean one person gets 20 and one person gets 30. But I think bearing in mind that some people do like to think about something before they speak, which is right. I think to give advance notice of something really then helps, hopefully, those people that don't feel that they're able to speak up, just sort of speaking off the cuff.
Oh, that's a really good point. And you said that business leaders often don't open up the discussion wide enough. How, as an HR person, do you help them to change that habit?
So I think it's about sitting alongside. I mean, I'm really lucky in the organisations and the roles that I've done. I've got to sit as part of senior leadership teams. And I think it's really about challenging the senior leaders if I see that they're not giving everyone an opportunity. I think it can be really easy to think that everybody that's seen as dynamic is good, where actually sometimes people are loud, but they don't necessarily have the best ideas. So for me, it's really thinking about the contribution that everybody makes and also really playing on people's strength. I think far too often we focus on what people could do better. So someone that's quiet is told they should be louder, they should have more of a presence. But actually, rather than sort of try and get everyone to have the same skills and experience, actually what we should be doing is saying actually their strength is in a different way. So it could be that their strength is on being looking at the detail more and bringing a different slant to something rather than having just the people with the loudest voices being heard.
That's a really interesting point. Thank you. Does this link to staff retention? Because from an HR perspective, high or low staff retention obviously is a good thing. What's the number one cause of low staff retention?
So for me, I think it all comes down to employee engagement. Enablers of engagement are having good leaders that will listen and having a voice. And I think that's what's really important. People really want to have a voice. I think there's a saying, which I'll probably get slightly wrong, but people should start worrying was when people go quiet. And I think if people do feel like they haven't got an opportunity to say how they really feel and to feel like they're making a contribution, they might be more likely to look and feel it and see if they can make a contribution elsewhere.
Fantastic, thank you. Coming towards the end of the interview, Rachel, unfortunately, because we could talk for hours, I think.
Yeah,
what I normally do at this point is to ask my guests for a tip for introverts, perhaps in organisations, and a tip for leaders who are probably not introverts to get more from their introverts.
So I guess for introvert, if you have a line manager who's not giving you the opportunity to speak, think about different ways of engaging with them. Put forward your ideas. If you don't feel comfortable speaking up, then make sure you put your ideas forward in other ways, or link up with somebody else that you can bounce off and you can work together on that. And I think for me, for leaders, it's give everyone an opportunity to speak. Really look at all of your people, listen to them, and slow down. I know myself as a new leader, I would run at 1,000,000 miles an hour and wonder why people weren't catching up for me. But as I've got a bit older and longer in the tooth, actually I've learned that it's much better to ask a question and step back and listen. And I've learned a lot more from a lot of people.
Wow, really good point. Thank you. How can people get back in touch with you, Rachel?
Yeah, so you can find me via my website, redfeatherconsulting.co.uk, or you can find me on LinkedIn.
Fabulous. It's been brilliant to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, John.
And now it's time for Introvert Myth of the Week. Those crazy stories that I hear and you hear, but some people actually believe. Introverts are more intellectual or creative than extroverts. I'm really sorry, introverts. I think this is a complete myth. Neither of them are true. It's a bit odd though. Intellectual first. Maybe I understand where this one could come from. I think it might be our old friends, internal processing and people energy. If I take a second to answer something, then give a more structured answer in more detail, does that make my answer more right or more intellectual than a fast responding external processor? No. But I can see how some people might think or assume it does. Remember, introverts think to talk, extroverts talk to think. But number 2, be more creative. I just don't see this one. I guess it all swings on what you call creative and how you get creative. If creative people, in your view, spend more time on their own, it might make you go, introverts are more creative because they're happier being on their own. But I see many creative people bouncing off ideas off of one another to create, and that sounds more stereotypically extrovert. But I do know many introverts do it when they're in a safe space where they know that it's valuable. So neither creativity or intellectualism are the domain of introvert or extrovert. Thank you for listening to Activate Your Introvert, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. I'd love to see your reviews on the iTunes store. Thank you once again, and catch up with you next week.